Perhaps most of us think of an economy as a system for the production and distribution for the goods and services we use in everyday life. He says, that is true as far as it goes, but it does not go so far enough. The Garden of Eden was a system for the production and distribution of goods and services, but it was not an economy because everything was available in unlimited abundance. Without scarcity, there is no need to economize. I repeat that. Without scarcity, there is no need to economize, and therefore no economics. So the heart of economy, it is scarcity. Where there is a scarcity, there is an economy. Other words, economics studies the consequences of decisions that are made about the use of land, labor, capital, and other resources that go into producing the volume of output which determines a country's standard of living. Nothing to do with money. Those decisions and their consequences can be more important than the resources themselves. You hear that? The decisions that are made are more important than the resources used in an economy. Hi guys, and welcome back to yet another YouTube video, and welcome back to yet another one. And if you are new here, yes sir, welcome to the channel. So as you can tell by the title, we're here with Basic Economics by the great Thomas Sowell. This book right here really did change my life after reading it 6 months ago. And not even 6 months, like 7 months ago really. Yeah, it became one of my favorite books. And I feel like if there is a book that I will ever recommend and ever make a really kind of spark notes review, it will be this one. This book right here, it is one book that you just need to read, and you just need to digest and study and understand, and it will help you to make great financial decisions and economical decisions at large, because it will widen your thinking when it comes to economy, and it will even help you understand how an economy functions, because economy rules the world and economics rules your life. And if you don't understand how the economy functions and how economics really works, you will never be able to make decisions that really will drive you to success. And if you want to make decisions that really drive you to success, you need to understand that you live in an economy and it needs something from you. And you are here to serve the economy. And if you don't serve it, you will get something from it, and it will get something from you. So it's like give and take. Give and take. What are you giving and what are you taking, and how much are you losing to the economy? And it's like you need to make a decision. Am I losing or am I winning in this economy? And you should never try to lose. Never lose in the economy. So we are going to review the first chapter, and I'll be making another video where I will review the second chapter and the third and the fourth. The first 4 chapters will be reviewed in this series of reviewing this book. And yeah, this is a huge book, so I'm not going to review every chapter, but I'm going to review those first 4 chapters that I felt like were the most fundamental chapters in this book. In my opinion, one may say other chapters, but those chapters were important to me because they've really transformed my way of thinking when it comes to economics. And yeah, those are the chapters that I think everyone should at least try to get something out of. And yeah, let's go ahead and jump into this Tom, because this book is really huge. It's like over how many pages? Fucking 500 pages, 600 at that. This book is huge. It's huge, and if you want to read it, go ahead and buy it and get something out of yourself and learn something, because this book will teach you more than you'll ever learn going to an economic class in school. So he starts off with a preface. He said, the most obvious difference between this book and other introductory economic books is that Basic Economics has no graphs or equations. It is also written in plain English rather than in economic jargon so that it can be readily understood by people with no previous knowledge of economics. This includes both the general public and beginning students in economics. A less obvious but important feature of basic economics is that it uses real-life examples from countries around the world to basic principles, vivid and memorable in a way that graphs and equations might not. Through its various editions, the fundamental idea behind basic economics has remained the same. Learning economics should be as uncomplicated as it is eye-opening. I repeat that. Learning economics should be as uncomplicated as it is eye-opening. So, what he's saying in this book is that this book is simple to understand. Everyone can understand it. And I agree, I have to agree, because it's really that simple. It's no grass, because other economic books that you may read, they may involve a lot of calculations, a lot of statistics, a lot of details. And you may end up feeling like tired. I'm tired of seeing numbers. And you don't want to see those many numbers when you read a book that you want to get something out of. You will never get something out of a book that is filled with equations, filled with calculations, filled with terms and things that you don't understand. This book right here is written in plain English so everyone can understand. So he starts off in chapter 1. What is economics? That's where he starts, and that's where we love that. That's where we want him to start. What is economics? He says. He uses a quote from George J. Stingler. He says, whether one is a conservative or a radical or a protectionist or a free trader, a cosmopolitan or a nationalist, a churchman or a heathen, it is useful to know the causes and consequences of economic phenomena. And he continues. Let's go. Economic events often make headlines in the newspapers or breaking news on television. Yet, it is not always clear from these news stories what caused these particular events, much less what future consequences can be expected. The underlying principles involved in most economic events are usually not very complicated in themselves, but the political rhetoric and economic jargon in which they are discussed can make these events seem murky. Yet, the basic economic principles that would clarify what is happening may remain unknown to most of the public and little understood by many in the media. Why he's saying that we always hear that economic event this, economic event that, Russia's done this, inflation is up, but we never really understand what is happening. Because the jargon that they feed us with, it is always noise. They're always saying this, they're always saying that. We never understand. We never get really, really clear about what is going on. And we just accept that, okay, the oil prices are up because of Russia and because of Ukraine, and we just move on like that. And we never really get a clear definition of why this is happening. He says, these basic principles of economics apply around the world and have applied over thousands of years of recorded history. They apply in many very different kinds of economies, capitalist, socialist, feudal, or whatever, and among a wide variety of people's cultures and governments. Policies which led to rising prices levels under Alexander the Great have led to rising price levels in America 1,000 years later. Rent control laws have led to a very similar set of consequences in Cairo, Hong Kong, Stockholm, Melbourne, and New York. So have similar agriculture policies in India and in the European Union countries. So what he's saying right there is that many principles of economics that has applied during the recorded history that has passed are still applying today. What happened in the 1990s is still happening today. Whatever has happened before, it will happen again, because there is the truth, and that truth we are going to know right now. And that truth will be about scarcity. He says, We can begin the process of understanding economics by first being clear as to what economics means. To know what economics is, we must first know what an economy is. Perhaps most of us think of an economy as a system for the production and distribution for the goods and services we use in everyday life. He says, that is true as far as it goes, but it does not go so far enough. The Garden of Eden was a system for the production and distribution of goods and services, but it was not an economy because everything was available in unlimited abundance. Without scarcity, there is no need to economize. I repeat that. Without scarcity, there is no need to economize, and therefore no economics. So the heart of economy, it is scarcity. Where there is scarcity, there is an economy. Where there is scarcity, there is an economy. So if there is no scarcity, there is no need to economize. True. Okay. He says, the definition of economics is the study of use of scarce resources which have alternative uses. Nothing to do with money there. Nothing to do with money. Economics is the study of use of scarce resources which have alternative uses. Nothing to do with money. And what is scarcity? What does scarce mean? It means that what everybody wants adds up to more than there is. This may seem like a simple thing, but its implications are often grossly misunderstood, even by highly educated people. For example, a feature article in the New York Times laid out the economic woes and worries of middle-class Americans, one of the most affluent group of human beings ever to inhabit this planet. Although this story included a picture of middle-class American family in their own swimming pool, the main headline read, the American middle class just getting by. Other headlines in the article included, wishes deferred and plans unmet, goals that remain just out of sight, dogged saving, and some luxuries. You heard that. So what it means is just the scarcity is the reason why the Americans, the middle class Americans, they make the decisions they make, because there's never enough to feed everybody. And what they have is all they know. And it's because of the scarcity, the scarce resources. And he says, in short, middle class Americans' desires exceed what they can comfortably afford. I repeat, in short, middle class Americans' desires exceed what they can comfortably afford, even though what they already have would be considered unbelievable prosperity by people in many other countries around the world, or even by earlier generation of Americans. Yet both they and the reporter regarded them as just getting by. And an Harvard sociologist was quoted as saying how budget constrained these people really are. But it's not something as man-made as a budget which constrains them. Reality constrains them. There has never been enough to satisfy everyone completely, and that is the real constraint. That is what scarcity means. There have never been enough to satisfy everyone. That is the reality of economics. Crazy. And he goes ahead and he tackles productivity. Economics is not just about dealing with exiting output of goods and services as consumers. It is also and more fundamentally about producing that output from scarce resources in first place and turning inputs into output. In other words, economics studies the consequences of decisions that are made about the use of land, labor, capital, and other resources that go into producing the volume of output which determines a country's standard of living. I repeat that. Economics studies the consequences of decisions that are made about the use of land, labor, capital, and other resources that go into producing the volume of output, which determines a country's standard of living. So, economy has nothing to do about money. It has nothing to do about money, apparently, but it just studies the consequences that comes by the decisions being made about land, labor, capital, and other resources, which money involves. So, crazy. Yeah, welcome back. So let's continue where we ended. He said, in other words, economics studies the consequences of decisions that are made about the use of land, labor, capital, and other resources that go into producing the volume of output, which determines a country's standard of living. Nothing to do with money. Those decisions and their consequences can be more important than the resources themselves. You hear that? The decisions that are made are more important than the resources used in an economy. For there are poor countries, listen, there are poor countries with rich natural resources and countries like Japan and Switzerland with relatively few natural resources by high standards of living. The values of natural resources per capita in Uruguay and Venezuela are several times what they are in Japan and Switzerland. But real income per capita in Japan and Switzerland is more than double that of Uruguay and several times of Venezuela. You heard that right? So what he's saying is that countries can have very low natural resources but a very good high standards of living, and it all has to do with the decisions that are made with the use of the resources. He compares that you see Uruguay has many resources, you see Venezuela has many resources, but they have nothing near what Japan and Switzerland have when it comes to the standards of living. And it all has to do with the decisions that are being made in these economies. Let's continue. He says, not only scarcity, but also alternative uses. Not only scarcity, but also alternative uses are the art of economy. You heard that right. If each resource had only one use, economics would be much simpler. But water can be used to produce ice or steam by itself or innumerable mixtures and compounds in combination with other things. Similarly, from petroleum comes not only gasoline and heating oil, but also plastics, asphalt, and Vaseline. You heard that right. Iron ore can be used to produce steel products ranging from paper clips to automobiles to frameworks and skyscrapers. So what he's saying right now is that it's not only scarce resources, but alternative uses at the heart of the economy. One resource can be used to produce many different products. Let's say milk. Milk can be used to produce yogurt, to produce cheese, to produce butter, and all this matters. And this affects the production. Very nice, very nice. How much of each resource should be allocated to each of its many uses? Every economy has to answer that question, and each one does in one way or another, efficiently or inefficiently. I repeat that. How much of each resource should be allocated to each of its many uses? Every economy has to answer that question, and each one does in one way or another, efficiently or inefficiently. Doing so efficiently is what economics is about. Different kinds of economies are essentially different ways of making decisions about the allocation of scarce resources, and those decisions have repercussions on the life of your society. So it is always the decisions that are being made in an economy that really affects the economy at large. Nothing to do with the resources. What you do with the resources, it is what affects the economy at large and the society and the people in an economy. Really crazy how that works. He says, he gives us a great example. He says, during the days of the Soviet Union, for example, that country's industries used more electricity than American industries used. Even though Soviet industries produced a smaller amount of output than American industries produced, such inefficiencies in turning inputs into outputs translated into a lower standard of living in a country richly endowed with natural resources, perhaps more richly endowed than any other country in the world. Russia is, for example, one of the few industrial nations that produce more oil than it consumes. But an abundance of resources does not automatically create an abundance of goods. Efficiency in production, the rate at which inputs are turned into output, is not just some technicality that economists talk about. It affects the standard of living of whole society. When visualizing this process, it helps to think about the real things, the iron and ore, petroleum, wood, and other inputs that go into production process, and furniture, food, and automobiles that come out the other end, rather than think of economic decisions as being simply decisions about money. Nothing to do with money. Whenever you put in money, you forget about what this petroleum should do, what this wood should do, what this milk should do. It's all about the decisions that are being made with the resources that will affect the economy at large and the society at large and the people at large and the standard of living in the society. So it is all about the decisions really in an economy. Let's continue. The role of economics. I love this part. Among the misconceptions of economics is that it is something that tells you how to make money or run a business or predict the ups and downs of the stock market. But economics is not personal finance or business administration, and predicting the ups and downs of the stock market has yet to be reduced to the dependable formula. When economists analyze prices, wages, profits, or the international balance of trade, for example, it is from the standpoint of how decisions in various parts of the economy affect the allocation of scarce resources in a way that raises or lowers the material standard of living of the people as a whole. I repeat that. Various parts of economy affect the allocation of scarce resources in a way that raises or lowers the material standard of living of the people as a whole. So it is all about the allocation of resources, scarce resources at that affects the standard of living in the society. Economics is not simply a topic on which to express opinions or vent emotions. It is a systematic study of cause and effect, showing what happens when you do specific things in specific ways. It's a study of cause and effect. You did this, so this will happen. You did this, so this would happen. You produced milk, this will happen with that. It's all about cause and effect. In economic analysis, the methods used by Marxist economics like Oscar Lange did not differ in fundamental way from the methods used by the conservative economics like Milton Friedman. It is these basic economic principles that this book is about. One of the ways of understanding the consequences of economic decisions is to look at them in terms of incentives they create rather than the goals they pursue. This means that consequences matter more than intentions, and not just the immediate consequences but also the longer run repercussions. Nothing is easier than to have good intentions, but without an understanding of how an economy works, good intentions can lead to counterproductive or even disastrous consequences for a whole nation. Many, if not most, economic disasters have been a result of policies intended to be beneficial. Wow, that's true. And these disasters could often have been avoided if those who originated and supported such policies had understood economics. So what he's saying right there is that economical decisions are made by people who don't really understand economics, and these decisions which are made are always made to be beneficial, but the results are not always beneficial to the economy at large. Okay. While there are controversies in economics, as they are in science, this does not mean that the basic principles of economics are just a matter of opinion, any more than the basic principles of chemistry or physics are just a matter of opinion. Einstein's analysis of physics, for example, was not just Einstein's opinion as the world discovered of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Economic reactions may not be as spectacular or as tragic as of a given day, but the worldwide depression of 1930s plunged millions of people into poverty, even in the richest countries, producing malnutrition in countries with surplus food, probably causing more death around the world than those of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Conversely, when India and China, historically two of the poorest nations on earth, began in the late 20th century to make fundamental changes in their economic policies, their economies began growing dramatically. It has been estimated that 20 million people in India rose out of destitution in a decade. In China, the number of people living on $1 a day or less fell from 374 million, one-third of the country's population, in 1990 to 128 million by 2004. Now just 10% of a growing population. In other words, nearly a quarter of a billion Chinese were now better off as a result of a change in economic policies. You see, the decisions that are made in an economy, they really affect the people at large and the growth of people and even their finances. Wow, very true. He says, things like this are what the study of economics important, and not just a matter of opinions or emotions. Economics is a tool of causes and effects analysis, a body of tested knowledge and principles derived from that knowledge. Money does not even have to be involved to make decisions be economic. When military medical team arrives on a battlefield where soldiers have a variety of wounds, they are confronted with the classic economic problem of allocating scarce resources which have alternative uses. Almost never are there enough doctors, nurses, or paramedics to go around, nor medications. Some of the wounded are near death and have little chance of being saved, while others have a fighting chance of they get immediate care, and still others are only slightly wounded and will probably recover whether they get immediate attention or not. So it's about the allocating of the scarce resource at hand that really is the heart of the economics. And even if there is an accident, the doctors or the paramedics will take care of those people who are near death or those who really need urgent help than those who may not need it. So it's about, yeah, we help you because you need the help more. And that's an economical decision. That is the role of economics. And that's where we will end this chapter of the book. That was a huge chapter. But what we can learn is that economics is the study of use of scarce resources which have alternative uses, nothing to do with money. And the role of economics is to make the right decisions that really are going to benefit the people and the society, and arises the standard of living in the society as a whole. The people will be well off if the economic decisions were made by people who actually understand what economics is, and not by people who uses emotions and feelings and trying to make decisions that only benefit them. So economics is there to make decisions that are going to benefit the economy at large and also the people in the economy. I love that. But it seems like it's never like that though. Because the decisions that are made, they are made through emotions and ideas and thoughts, not by economical analyses. Anyways, you guys, I hope this really helped you understand what economy really is, and I will be covering the next chapter, chapter 2 of the book, and we'll be covering chapter 3 and 4, and then we'll end this series. Let me see you in my next video, and take care. Peace.